but we're going to talk a little bit about the Constitution and how this has to do with his area of the law. So we're going to talk about the 14th Amendment. Go ahead, Attorney Howard. Tell us about how this connects.
Well, you see, the 14th Amendment guarantees your due process rights to various things. Property, for example, life, liberty, and happiness. And, well, I don't think happiness is actually a property right. But you have a due process property right, and you can't have that taken with you unless it satisfies due process. And you have two aspects of that: procedural, and then you also have a substantive aspect. And so the procedural due process aspect, you actually need a property right. And so there was 900 plus teams that applied for these Illinois dispensary licenses. And eventually it went into a lottery. And then that lottery had winners, it had losers. The state admitted that it made some errors and there's going to be future lotteries, but it was held in private and it had some very suspicious results. And we've been crunching those numbers as best as we can. And the worst number was 1 in 7 billion. And then there was a couple of 1 in 7 millions as far as we can tell. And we're still looking for statisticians to help us check our math and then to, write a little summary about if the math checks out. And very often lottery results are supposed to be audited. It'd be great if they're public, but it might not matter because you may have absolutely no due process rights whatsoever in the application and award system for those dispensary licenses, because you don't have a property right in that dispensary license until it's awarded to you. So if you think that you can just apply for a cannabis license in the state that's going to go to a dispensary, that's going to go to a lottery, and that you have rights and you're guaranteed a fair procedure for this, maybe not. You might not be. And so if you don't have a property right in the license, you don't have a due process right for procedural due process. You may have a claim for substantive due process, but not procedural. And so that's why if we do get this action on file, because
a lot of the people who applied, they thought it was very suspicious. They thought it may have been rigged. And then they also had
conflicting things where things were supposed to be optional and they turned out to be mandatory. Well, do you have any procedural due process right? Do you have a property interest?
And my philosophy is if you have a qualifying applicant, and so there was this new term of art that they created as they were making up this lottery procedure where it said if you got over 85% on these points available for your dispensary application, you are qualifying and you are entered into a lottery. And so is that qualifying application, that lottery ticket itself, property? If it is, then you'd have a procedural due process right to fairness, and the lottery can't be rigged. But if it's not, you don't.
That's a very interesting analysis. I think that's and of course there's so much value in these licenses, and I don't think that Illinois is so well known for being fair and honest and open that that I couldn't imagine there would be any shenanigans involved in distributing those very valuable licenses.
Right, those valuable licenses of which all the applicants have no property interest in. Yeah,
exactly.
Isn't that nice? So, the only way we have to get away from procedural due process in America is to say whatever the thing
is a privilege and not a right, and then also to hold a lottery in order to get bestowed that privilege.
I hope that that's not what's going to happen, but for example, when I'm studying the laws on this to determine whether our possible clients would have a procedural due process right because of a property interest, you look at the liquor law cases. And very often the liquor law cases, the applications themselves, you don't have a property right in that. You don't have a property right until the license is awarded. And then even then, sometimes like in the statute, you can write in there that your liquor license has no property right. And so I think one of the things we should do is the opposite of that. Write in that your qualifying application has a property right so they can't do these shenanigans in the lottery.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. Tell people how they can find you, Attorney.
Oh, they can find me by going to the internet and searching for either Cannabis Legalization News or Cannabis Lawyer, and then go to my website, cannabisindustrylawyer.com. I have a fairly large YouTube channel with about 31,000 subscribers called Cannabis Legalization News, and that's also a podcast. So go to wherever you enjoy podcasts and search for Cannabis Legalization News. You can find us all on those things. And, there's